So literacy is a big part of education, but sometimes it's not given a lot of attention. This show is all about enabling educators and leaders who are tuning in to pick up a few tips on how we can further promote literacy in our classrooms and beyond. Welcome to Ed Talks Live. Welcome to Ed Talks Live, everyone. My name is Ivo Hanan. I've been an educator for 20 years now, and I'll be your host for the show. Today, we are going to be focusing on the topic of literacy. It's something that is really key to not only local and national education, but global education. We're going to be touching upon that in just a moment and the reasons why we should continue to promote the importance of literacy in our classrooms across the globe. So, what is the show all about? So, it is the 15th of November, and we have our two guests who will be joining us, Natalie Reeves Billing from the UK and Richard Simpson, who is also from the UK. We're also going to have a host of educators and people involved in education joining us from across the globe. We have Bhavna, Mishra, Shelly, Cozens, Oliver Wright, Barbara Bray, and of course our co-host of the Staffroom, Nicole Crawford. So let's jump into the Staffroom and see how everyone is. Good day, faculty. How are you all doing?
Doing well. How are you, Evo?
Yeah, you guys all good? It's good to see you all, and thank you for joining us from all four corners of the globe. Michael, how are you doing this weekend? How's your weekend?
It's going well. Thanks for asking. The weather's a little gloomier here in Michigan than it was for the past few days, but fortunate to get outside. I've been doing some artwork with my first grader, and all in all, just having a good, safe weekend. So it's going all right. Thanks.
Brilliant. So who are the guests tonight, Michael?
We got some good ones. Let me start there. We'll start with Bhavna. How are you, Bhavna?
Hi there, Michael. Very well. Thank you so much for having me here. Lovely to meet you all.
Thanks, Bhavna.
Thank you.
Am I supposed to introduce myself? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Roll with it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Bhavna.
All right. Okay. All right. I just thought it was a quick chat. So I'm Bhavna. I'm the founder of Brasley and a huge believer of research that demonstrates the power of reading as a key driver of literacy and social change. 4 years ago, I delved into extensive research to establish the most notable practices in effective reading instruction and the theory of learning. And we evolved an approach which we now call ISHQIM. It's an acronym. And that's what we based Brasley on. And I hope that it will become a tool that is so accessible and affordable that it brings literacy and enjoyment of reading to classrooms beyond socioeconomic barriers. That's what we're working towards.
It's wonderful.
How do I follow that?
Yeah.
I'm Oliver, and I'm from the UK. I've been a primary school teacher and a primary school head teacher, but I now work for Twinkle, helping those who lead.
Shelly, we lost your audio.
Oh, Shelly, your audio, your microphone. Okay, we'll come back to Shelly. It's okay. We'll come back to you in a second. Barbara?
Good morning, everyone. I'm in Oakland, California. It's beautiful here today, which is nice. We had rain, which is what we needed here. It's been really dry, and we probably heard about all the fires, so we're happy when it rains. And when it comes to the power of literacy, I'm really excited that you included me, Ivo. I'm an author. I've written 3 books, And one of the things that I find is that everyone has a story. And so one of the things that I encourage everyone to do is find the stories. So I also have a podcast, and that's where a lot of the stories I found. I luckily had Evo and Michael on my show, and so it's been really interesting when you find the stories from everyone in your class. You'll find out things you never knew before, and that's when they start writing about it and talking about it. So I'll be telling a little bit more about that. But I'm excited to hear about everybody. Thank you for including me.
Thanks for being here, Barbara.
Thanks. Shelly, how are you?
Is it working?
Yes.
Success.
Oh, good.
Okay. That's good. Right, so I'm an English teacher. Literacy is a massive part of everything that I do. Obviously, I also lead on Accelerated Reader in our setting as well. So it's fantastic to be able to share information with other people and see what other schools are doing to promote literacy as well.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Shelly.
And we've got 2 guests from the UK, Michael.
We do indeed. We have Natalie. Natalie, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, my name's Natalie Reeves Billing, and I'm from Merseyside. And I'm a children's author and a social entrepreneur. So my social business is all about storytelling and creativity as a form of healing and catharsis in families and children. And I've got a particular passion for early years education.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And we have Rich. Rich, how are you?
Good, thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm a year 6 primary teacher in the UK. Been teaching primary for 20 years now. I'm English lead at the school I'm at currently. Passionate about reading, passionate about books. Really like the idea of what Barbara said about everybody having a story and using stories. So I can't wait to hear a bit more about that as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, it seems like storytelling and stories are an important theme that we might touch on today. So thank you all for being here. And Evo, let's jump back to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. So let's jump into a little bit of some educational facts about literacy. I just did a quick search on Google, and there's a ton of infographics that you can find. This one is from 2015, but it gives a real clear indication of global illiteracy. The number of people aged 15 to 25 who cannot read or write. For the people who are in the staff room, there's a global map, and it picks out and highlights some of the areas in Africa. I mean, really, you've got the south area of North America, Africa, and some part of Asia. And there is a ton of population numbers that it shares. India, almost 25 million people cannot read or write between the age of 15 and 25. Bangladesh, 5,267,261. We go down to Kenya, 1,263,827, and so on and so forth. And so, I mean, some of these nations, looking at India in particular, almost 25 million people, and this is in 2015, who cannot read or write. I mean, that's a big number, guys. And if we look at the second infographic, illustrates in numbers really just what the differentiation is. 15% of the world's population cannot read or write. There's a couple of other figures. One in 2015, 91% of people aged 15 to 24 were literal globally. So you can see some of these figures here. And then right at the bottom, it's got reasons why literacy is important. And it gives 6 reasons: to improve health, to empower communities, to improve income, for fairer democracies, exchange of knowledge, and being a part of the online world. You can see there now, literacy is just being part of the modern world requires people who can read and write. We're going to give you guys an opportunity to be part of a poll now as well, to give your indication of how you see literacy. If you want to take part in the poll, go to menti.com. The code is 226137. And the first question we're going to be asking you is, how much is literacy a priority in your school? If you do not work in a school or not attend a school, how about you put down how much of a priority it was in the school that you attended, or the closest that you have, whether it's a family member and so on and so forth. I know sometimes we have students who attend these talks, so please feel free to get involved as well. And also, the guests in the staff room can also participate in this. Code 226137, menti.com. So we're going to jump, whilst that populates, we're going to jump to our first guest. Our first guest is from Merseyside. She is from the area that I'm from, funnily enough. And she is an author of children's books, and we are having her on the show so she can share some of her insights on literacy. Natalie, are you there?
I am, but first a little correction. I'm actually from Liverpool, from Toxteth, and moved
Oh,
to the
Toxteth.
Yes, Toxteth first.
Toxteth first. Okay.
Yeah. So, but now, from my little base, from my writing den, I've written 3 books during lockdown. So I was pretty inspired during that time. I set up my social business just in February, imagine that. I had a full funding package waiting for me, which disappeared, and I had to quickly find new ways through. But thankfully, it seems to have gone well, albeit on a smaller scale than I would have liked. So my social business, what it deals with is narrowing the education gap. So finding other ways to deliver creative content and immersive content without the need for tech necessarily. With me, I concentrate on things like paper crafts and other peripheral content like gameplay, so making your own board games, making your own dice, so you can choose your own sort of voyage to a story. So I help children to create their own stories via using things like dice to control things like locations and characters and actions and things like that, so it brings it to life. So yeah, basically my focus is make it as fun and as inexpensive as possible so that everybody can access it, or I can help them to find funding for it, and that's my passion. That's
great. Great, Natalie. And really helping, aren't you? You're really helping communities there. So you've been working with schools for quite a while. How do you find, in general, that they promote literacy?
Right. Well, when all the schools I've worked with in Merseyside, I've particularly targeted underfunded schools who've had a wide variety of different backgrounds of children from socio-economic backgrounds, and therefore there's a lot of work to do. We have to identify different groups, English-speaking communities, non-English-speaking communities, and so it has been quite tough to try to find one workshop that fits all, but that's part of what I'm developing at the minute, which is something which is accessible to all children in the room. There's no separate class to go into, which was something that was making children feel isolated, or it just wasn't creating a very good atmosphere in the groups. So I will be delivering that in January. So although we've had this pause, I've noticed that, well, I expected that early years would start to say, you know what, hold on, we just need to catch up a little bit. But in actual fact, there's a bigger need now for online, virtual, early years things that go a bit further, I guess, than the traditional author visit that does things like craft or PE, things like that, and around other subjects as well, such as maths and science, because there's a story to be told around all of those topics, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Thank you very much. So, I mean, I really appreciate you sharing those insights with us. Can you, with your experience, can you just share what ways, 2 or 3 ways on how our listeners can further promote literacy in education?
Well, to point out what we've done here on Merseyside, which I think is a great undertaking, really, we have 3 years of literacy, which was planned. Unfortunately, the first one was 2020, so we're deferring that and putting that on the back end. But we had Liverpool Writes, Liverpool Reads, and Liverpool Speaks. And so they started 2020. We got a group of people together, including the libraries, the schools, literacy trusts, and also big private firms who have corporate responsibility and funds for that. And together we addressed some of the issues that were affecting the failing literacy levels across the nation, but particularly in certain areas of Merseyside where we noticed that boys weren't really connecting with reading at all. And so trying to find content that would engage boys, and so that's where the active stuff comes into it. So getting boys doing things with their hands, being a part of the process. So instead of just reading a story, make them part of the story, make them act it out. One of the things that has proven popular at the moment is making the characters from the book. So I provide these little things, so they make little 3D blocks of themselves, and they can act these things out in a puppet sort of fashion. So I guess it's just thinking outside the box at the minute to get them interested in the core content, and allow them to access it from all different ways, whether it's pictorial or whether it's physical or whether it's literal. All kids are different, aren't they? They have different way of interacting with content.
Yeah, they do. Thank you very much. That's really helped us, in particular in the Northwest, understand how you're promoting literacy, and hopefully that can spread across the country and the globe as well. Thank you for that, Natalie. We're going to have a quick look at the poll now, and as we can see here, 40% of the people who have put in a poll, a vote here, say that their school extensively promotes literacy. All staff promote literacy. 60% widely promote literacy in their classes. Okay, so it's good that we've had a mixture of number 4s and number 3s, no 2s and no 1s. That's a thumbs up for all the teachers and all the schools out there. We are going to jump to the staff room now to get some insights from the staff room. Over to you, Michael.
Yeah, thanks so much. And Natalie, thanks for sharing and for the work you're doing. Writing 3 books since quarantine is very impressive. So kudos to you for that. Bhavna, what do you have to say about some of what Natalie was talking about?
I think, Natalie, it's amazing work that you've done. To be so inspired to write 3 books is amazing. And I think what really connects to me is what we found in our research is that when you're promoting literacy, especially reading, you have to employ a variety of teaching practice to make it accessible to all different reading and learning styles. We, like you talked about the boys, as well as some in a classroom, we see that there are children who are, let's say, catching up versus some who are ahead in their learning curve. And for a teacher to manage both ends of the spectrum while she's in a class of 20 to 30 can be quite challenging. And I think this variety of practices, when your teaching strategy involves that, it at some point in time is likely to touch every child and therefore become more effective. So one of the things that we do is, and it's one of the recommended in the ISHQIM strategy, is integration of reading and writing together, and we add to that presentation as well. So when you read, you write about it, and you present about it, and you talk about it, you get into discussions. The other thing which we found super interesting, and I think you also touched upon it, is the social scaffolding, which happens. I mean, scaffolding is sort of a metaphor which we can use and works super well, especially in the secondary setting, where children no longer, those who've learned to read and write have gone forward. Those who've lagged behind, the focus on literacy is not as high as in primary, And that tends to leave huge gaps for those students who haven't been able to access the right set of learning at the time when they were supposed to. And we see that social scaffolding at this point in time just works fabulous. And that comes from a variety of things. It could be a read aloud in the class where the teacher is reading fluently and then engaging in a discussion where she invites children to talk and give their opinions. Or when it comes to a social situation where you make it a social network where not just the teachers, but also your more, let's say, advanced peers for our students support their learning by way of social interaction and to, scaffold that learning areas where they might be lacking. So I think there are quite a few points where we concur. We just probably deliver it in a different way because Brasley's is an online platform. You do it fabulously with your, in-class or little activities, whether it's craft or, creating something. And we do it online. So by way of giving various tools to teachers to make the whole process of literacy more accessible to children who have different learning styles. So that's really interesting. I think there is some overlap there.
Thanks, Bhavna.
What really struck me actually was the idea of everybody having a story that they want to either tell or be part of or to enjoy together. And particularly what you said about removing barriers. And sometimes it can be a case of almost looking at the whole spread of children that you've got in front of you and working out which barriers there are for different, either for individuals or for different groups within that setting, and then set about just dismantling or removing those barriers as much as you can. Sometimes it can be a case of what Bhavna was talking about, of actually scaffolding it and structuring it for children. But other times it's just literally immersing children within that story, whether it's enjoying a story together or whether it's acting out their story or creating one like you were talking about with the games, and just chipping away at that with children. So there'll be some that get engaged with the activity sort of stuff that you were talking about. There'll be some that just enjoy being read to or enjoy reading for themselves, and just having that all-encompassing approach that catches most children's imagination. And also showing that you care about them and that you're interested in them as an individual, just pulling them into that group, and it really, really works. I was very impressed with what you had to say.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Oliver. Thanks, Bhavna. Thanks, Natalie. And Eva, let's jump back to you.
Thank you, guys. And it's great to start off the show with someone who's so passionate about delivering stories. So, Natalie, thank you very much, and to Bhavna and Oliver for your insights. So, before we visit, touch base with our next guest, we're going to do a second poll. But let's just see what the first poll results ended up. Yep, they still ended up with 40% extensive and 60% widely, which is good news. Let's flick to the next poll. So if we can see here, same code, menti.com, code 226137. Question 2, it's the word cloud format for this one. What characteristics does literacy promote in students? You have a maximum of 5 words that you can add here. Let's see what the benefits of promoting literacy are in child development, shall we say. Whilst that builds itself up, I am going to go to the next guest. He was on our show last week, a show he no doubt will never forget, and is now going to be on the show this week sharing his insights to literacy. It is, of course, Mr. Richard Simpson. Richard, are you there?
Oh, you go. You had to bring up the quiz from last week, didn't you? Had to bring up the quiz from last week.
It was just there, Richard. Yeah, it was just there. Go for it, Richard. So how are you?
Thanks very much for having me, Hugo.
Yeah, no worries at all. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Richard.
Well, I'm based on the Isle of Wight. I've been a primary teacher for 20 years now, mainly in Key Stage 2. So I started off teaching in middle schools, which was the last 2 years of primary and first 2 years of secondary. So something that I think it was Bhavna said actually about the primary to secondary is quite interesting, because I taught in a school where we didn't have that separation, and the year 6s moved straight on to year 7. And now teaching in a primary where they moved to secondary, I can see massive gaps, and there's big issues with transition that I'd really like to do some more work about. I think I've gone off on a tangent already, Evo. All these people have said so many interesting things. I knew what I wanted to say, and now I want to say things back to all of them. But what Bhavna said is actually, it struck a chord with me. I made a note of this. In primary, I teach those children all day, every day, and I know what subjects they're good at and what subjects they struggle with. And if I'm teaching history and I know that this child has issues with reading and writing, I can adapt and I can help that out. When they move to secondary, what really worries me about some of these children who haven't got reading and writing when they leave is in their English lessons, that's fine. But they go to secondary and they're going to a specialist history or a specialist maths or a specialist teacher who maybe doesn't have that. And they're brilliant teachers, they're subject specialists, nothing against secondary at all, but they don't have that all over knowledge, and they can't necessarily help them to access. And it starts to write those children off, not just because they can't read and write, it puts them off all those other subjects as well. And that's why it's so important that we get literacy right in primary. So that's my first thing. The second thing I'd like to say, I'm going on to question 2 already, Evo, aren't I?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, Richard. I mean, you're very passionate about literacy. I can see that. So yeah, again, you know, what I was going to ask was the network that you're currently promoting literacy in. What issues do you see teachers face when they're trying to promote literacy in schools?
Well, I think the transition, that transition is definitely something that we need to look at. The other thing that one of the issues we've got at my school particularly, but I think it's come up in a couple of the things that other people have said, is that it's not just about reading and writing. And where you put those stats up earlier, Evo, about you know, this number of people can't read or write. They can talk though. They've got a voice. They've still got that story. And I think that's really important. That actually we see literacy as the talk is very, very important as well. Yeah. And where we have a problem is that we've got children coming into school now that don't actually have the verbal ability to express themselves and tell some of these stories. And so we're finding actually lower down the school, it's that oracy is a real issue, and spoken language is a problem. And you know, literacy is all to do with communication, isn't it? So being able to express yourself and tell your story. And if you don't have the words to do that, it doesn't matter about reading or writing anymore. If you can't speak it, first of all, it doesn't matter whether you can read or write it, because you don't have the vocabulary, you don't have the words to put on paper if you could read or write. So I think that the spoken word and speaking and talking is a real issue that needs to be, and I think it's a society problem. I've written down in my notes before, you know, that for coming on here, is I think communication is a big issue in society, that we're all very, very screen bound. And, you know, I know we have to read things on screen and we have to type and we have to search things, but, you know, AI and all these search engines do a lot of that for us, so we don't have to think too much about it. We live in a very visual world where children go straight on YouTube and they see the story. They don't have to read the words and create it in their own head. It's automatically there, the pictures, what they want. They're not having to read words and make sense of it and create that themselves and think about the story. And parents aren't reading stories to children because it's easier for them to watch it on. That's a big generalization. I know there are lots of parents who do read, and I know, but I think an awful lot of children, in my experience, are doing more and more on screen rather than from a book. And yes, they're getting the story and the sense of the plot and the characters and what happens, but it's been given to them, and that's taking away a big part of the reading process for me, the comprehension and understanding, and they'll be able to work things out and the predicting, because it's already there. The answers are automatic or very instant or very quick. So communication was one of the big issues, and talk was one of the big problems that we're finding, is that the children just don't have the vocabulary and don't have the language skills that they need before they can even think about reading or writing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the thing is, the big question relates to, obviously, with English being the international business language, it does land on our shoulders, teachers of English, across the globe, to try and promote this language that enables students to be able to enter the business world and to grow globally. So local mother tongue languages, albeit, are very, very important, but that ability to be able to extend yourself through literacy and through learning different types of languages, albeit the more business end ones, becomes so important. I think that's what some of those statistics were actually about. So all in all, Richard, what 3 pieces of advice can you offer teachers to support their journey on promoting literacy?
It's tricky, isn't it? I've written down about 10 different things that I think are good ideas here, but one of the things that really works for me is teaching around a text, and that's not a new idea. There's lots and lots of places that do that, but what I tend to do is have a central book that is my class sort of novel, if you like, but I try and then link my other subjects to that, so there's a context for it, so that I'm not trying to study too many different things. So last week, for example, Remembrance Sunday, Remembrance Day, we read a book by Tom Palmer called After the War, which has a very serious message. It's about refugees who came to the UK after World War II. They were Jewish children who'd been through the concentration camp experience, and what happened to them afterwards. Very, very powerful, very moving, and a serious book. So, lots of challenging topics for the children there. But in that, we also looked at history, we looked at geography, we looked at poetry, we looked at music and songs of remembrance. So everything sort of had a context and was linked in. So the children didn't see this reading as, well, if I can't get that, then that's me written off, because they were able to still access some of the content through the songs we looked at. And then that helped the book make a bit more sense. So I would say one of my tips is find a really good book that gives you lots of opportunities to do those other activities, a bit like Natalie said, the practical activities, the fun activities, the other things. So as reading isn't the be all and end all of it, and everything links back to that. And if anything, that encourages them, doesn't it, to want to see the story and be part of it. One of my favourite books every year to teach is a book called The Explorer by a writer called Catherine Rundell. Brilliant book. And one of my favourite activities we do, I found an online supplier that will sell me tarantulas that have been cooked ready to eat. And part of that book, part of the book is these children are, they're in a plane crash and they're stranded in the jungle. They need to learn to fend for themselves. And one of the things they have to do is catch and eat a tarantula. And I bring these tarantulas out and I said, well, we're going to try and see what it was like for them. And it's brilliant. And the children will not forget that lesson. I know it's a bit of a showpiece lesson, but they won't forget it. And it's making experiences like that show.
Oh.
The reading can be fun, experience you have from engaging with book can be fun as well. So that would be one of my big tips. Link lots of things to books and link lots of things to the text that you're teaching.
Absolutely.
Second tip, I think keep things current and keep looking for new books and new challenges and new stories that reflect the children and reflect what's going on in the world, so they can see themselves and they can see the situation that we're in those stories. I know a lot of teachers have their old favourites, and I was guilty of this when I first started teaching, was that I knew this book worked, so I went back to that book because I knew I would get my results from it. And I'm a year 6 teacher, so it's pressure to get these children to ARE and expected standard. But actually I get a lot more from it as a teacher using a new book, because it's exciting for me thinking of new things to do. The children get stuff because it's a book they haven't read before, it's only just come out. And there's so many good books now that address the current challenges in the world, not things that have already happened. And there are so many books that children won't choose themselves. They'll choose Roald Dahl, they'll choose Michael Moore Purgo, they'll choose David Williams, they'll choose those books because they're in the supermarket and parents will get them and they'll get them for Christmas. We need to give them these books about, refugees from Syria. There's some brilliant books at the minute about the refugee crisis and people, because that's on the news and that's what's happening, and they need to understand that they're part of the world. There's a book called Boy Everywhere that came out a couple of weeks ago that is absolutely phenomenal about the journey a boy from Syria has gone through to get to the UK and what it's like for him here. There's the After the War that I've just mentioned about World War II. There are so many books that are just brilliant that are just out, and we need to keep up to date and keep it fresh and keep children interested and motivated by these exciting books as well.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, Richard. I mean, it's very clear that not only are you extremely passionate about literacy, but we obviously need to have a further conversation off screen, because we could go on for easily an hour or so about just what changes you'd like to see. So possibly get you back on the show in season 3 to talk a bit more about literacy, Richard. Thank you very much for your insights and for your comments. We're going to jump into the staff room and we're going to see how people what people thought of what Richard said. Before that, let's have a look at the poll. So in the poll, guys, it's up on the screen now. Characteristics that literacy promotes in our student development. Confidence is right in the middle. Creativity, communication are there as well. Articulation, self-expression, sense of identity, flexibility, empathy, self-confidence. These are all great characteristics. Resilience, agency, curiosity. Brilliant. Thank you very much for contributing to that, everyone. Let's go to our staff room now and let's see what some of our faculty have to say. Michael, over to you.
Wonderful, and thanks, Rich, for those thoughts, those comments. I really appreciate the idea of weaving in different kinds of media to kind of strengthen and bolster young people's literacy skills. Shelly, let's jump over to you. What did you take from what Rich had to say?
A huge amount of passion, definitely. I come at it from a slightly different point of view because I'm secondary rather than primary. And one thing that as an English teacher kind of frustrates me sometimes at secondary level is that there is this belief that literacy is just for the English department to deal with. And it's really not. Literacy is a whole school issue. We are all literacy teachers. We can't just see, right, I teach history, I teach English, I teach technology. We are all literacy teachers and we've all got a role to play in this, and I think that's particularly important. The oracy bit I really see as well. Speaking and listening isn't part of the English GCSE anymore, which is quite sad. It's almost like it's an extra qualification, it's an extra endorsement that we have. And they're losing these skills. They do not, sadly, have the confidence to get up in front of their peers anymore and deliver presentations in the way that perhaps I did when I was at school. And it's quite sad that they don't have that. But sharing that passion that you have as a teacher will make such a huge difference. I did a presentation at the beginning of the year for my group and said, look, this is what I've read, and I read more young adult fiction than anything else at the moment. And sharing those ideas with them and then seeing them coming into the room with the books that I've recommended and putting them down on the table is a huge thing. So I think it's about us leading from the front and modelling what we're actually doing as well.
Thanks, Shelly.
Amazing. Thanks. Barbara.
I am just blown away. Rich, your passion is just amazing. Thank you so much. And you said some unbelievable things about oracy and, the ability to express where what your thoughts are about a book, about your life. So I've done a lot on personalized learning, and I wrote 2 books on that. And one of the things I found is if we can have even the little ones start talking about their lives and even do like an intergenerational story about where they came from, and right from the beginning, even use a tool like Flipgrid or Seesaw, some way of doing a portfolio of telling their story right away so they feel comfortable in who they are. I think it was Bronwyn, I can't remember her last name all of a sudden, but she did I Am From poems, or I Am From on Flipgrid with little kindergartners and preschoolers, where they came on and just shared where they're from, and then they had stickers they put all over themselves. And then I was thinking of when Natalie talked about making the 3D blocks, that idea of making it personal and relevant and something where they find that they can connect to when they're really young, and they feel comfortable getting up in front of people right from the beginning, and then carry that through. I think we need to do it in every subject. They should be able to express themselves. And Rich, your passion is you just make me, I was almost starting to cry, because it just made me feel like, I'll just tell you one real quick. I worked with a group where they had 9th grade reading teachers. This means that that's year 9, do not know how to read, which meant they were passed through, which means that they weren't they couldn't really learn. And it made me so sad to think that those children didn't have that ability all those years. So you were so right. We have to start when they're young and start with their stories. Have them tell their story somehow, even write it, draw it, do a play about it like Natalie said. And I love what you did, Natalie. So anyway, thank you so much, Evo, for letting me be here in the staff room with everyone.
Yeah, no problem at all, Barbara. And obviously, as an author yourself, you're going to really resonate with the messages that are shared in the show this evening. So thank you very much for joining us all the way from the San Francisco Bay Area. And Richard, very passionate about your message there. And obviously, Shelly and Barbara, thank you also for your insights. It's very clear, isn't it, that we need to take literacy, we need to take it seriously, because it can make such a difference to the children around us and beyond globally. So thank you very much, guys. So it's come to that part of the show where we're going to test our literacy experts on a little bit of literacy. So guys, are you ready for this? Before we do that, let me just quickly pop into the poll and just see. We've had a couple of additions of words, but overall, confidence, communication, creativity are seen as the most popular characteristics that are promoted by literacy. Thanks again, everyone, for taking a part in that. Okay, so the staff room quiz. Here we go. Reds versus purples. This is one of the first, or one of the shows that we're going to have our guests. Our guests, Natalie and Richard, both of them are going to be team captains. We're going to keep Richard on the red team, and we're going to have Natalie as the captain on the purple team. Natalie, do you want to introduce your team? Oh, your microphone's off, Natalie. Your microphone, sorry.
I wish I could introduce the team, but my computer, which I have running alongside it, is frozen. So
no problem. So would Natalie's team like to introduce themselves? Who's on Natalie's team?
All right, so I'm on Natalie's team, Team Purple.
Yes.
So, yay,
yes. And who else?
I'm on Team Purple.
Team Purple, okay. Yeah. So Natalie with Team Purple, Natalie, Bhavna and Oliver. And then we have Team Red. The red team captained by Richard, the passionate one.
Rich's Reds here.
Richard's Reds very much. And do you quickly want to introduce your team members, Richard?
Yes, on my team today, looking for victory, we have the marvellous Barbara and the fantastic Shelly, who I have no doubt are going to help me right the wrongs of last week.
It is all to play for, and after the quiz we do have a little bit of an announcement to make, Richard. We will do that after the quiz. First of all, let's see how this goes down. We are going to start this week with the purple team. So, how it's going to work, we are going to have 2 dedicated questions. Question 1 and 3 will go to the purples. Question 2 and 4 will go to the reds. It is always going to be closest answer. So if the team doesn't get it right, or if the team doesn't get it right, it will go to the other team. 2 points per answer. If we go down to the last question That is offered across both teams, and it will be closest to the answer, and that is double points, guys. Okay, so last week there was a steal with the final answer. Obviously, you can see Richard's response to that. So straight in with the questions. Michael, do you want to tell us a little bit about timekeeping?
I'm ready. We got 20 seconds per question, and I will get your attention when the time is up, and then I'll take the question final answer from the captain of the team. And so feel free to deliberate and figure out what the answer you want to submit is, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Purples, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, Natalie. Based on the infographic, the global infographic I showed at the beginning of the show, I made a few comments to the graphic. What was the population of the 15 to 25-year-olds who cannot read or write in Bangladesh?
Oh,
20 seconds on the clock.
right. Okay. So we need someone with a memory for this one. I'm gonna let's see. Let's pull from your brain. Can anyone think?
I reckon 5 million, 5.2 billion.
Okay.
Around
Any,
the-
5 million? Are we gonna go?
All right, I need
It
a
was
final
15% of the
answer.
world population.
I need a final answer, Natalie.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go with the 5 million. There's nothing else on the table.
All right, 5 million.
5 million is your final answer. The Reds could get closer. Richard, it is over to you. Can you get closer?
Oh, Barbara, Shelly, can you remember?
Just say the question again, just so I can make sure I got
Yeah,
it.
no problem at all. So at the beginning, there was a global infographic, which I described, and the population that was covered was 15 to 25-year-olds, and I went through a few countries. What was the population that cannot read or write from Bangladesh?
I knew it's over 5 million. It's like 5.2 or something like
I
that.
think Oliver said 5.2, so we might have to try and go.
5.2.
No, but Oliver, but Richard, Natalie said 5 million, and the answer comes from Natalie.
Oh, right, let's go with.
Yeah, that's why the answer comes from one person.
5.2.
5.2. Okay.
5.2.
5.2. Natalie, you are gonna kick yourself. It is 5.26. So Oliver, yeah. And I mean, this is another classic where some people don't necessarily 100% listen to what their team is saying. It is 5.2 is the closest. It is closer than obviously 5 million. So 2 points go to the Reds. They are off the mark. Bing.
Thanks, Oliver.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Ollie. Thanks, pal. Second question goes to the Reds. Purples, you could have a steal. Please listen carefully. There was a second part of the infographic that I mentioned. So in 2015, when the infographic came out, what was the percentage of 15 to 24-year-olds across the globe that were considered literate?
There were two numbers, weren't there? There was 85%, and it went up to 91%, I think. So if it's the earlier date, I think it was 85%. They were in the top right-hand corner of the screen. I'm pretty sure.
Somebody's been paying attention, Michael. It's nice to know the staff room actually pay attention.
5 seconds. I know. Let's see. 5 seconds here. Any?
You guys okay with that as an answer, Barb? Yeah.
85.
Rich. Good. 85.
Yeah.
Okay. Evo.
85%. It could be closer. Purples.
Oh, right. This is our time, guys. Come on, let's get our brain together. We're going up, we're going down. Higher.
Oh, I got that. Oh no.
So 15%, 15% of the world population cannot read or write is a number that I heard.
I did mention this. Again, I always mention the questions that I'm asking.
Percentages.
All right, Natalie, we need it. Time is up. What's your final answer here?
So should we say 89%? Should we say 89, Natalie?
With 91.
91?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This time I didn't go with Oliver last time. And I feel bad on him, so I'm going to go with Oliver this time.
Okay, so 91.
91. Talk about the tables turn around. Oliver, it is your chance to thank Richard for the answer. Well done. It is 91.
91.
Did I say the wrong one?
You said the wrong one. Yeah. So, Oliver, are you going to return the gratitude to Richard?
The next question for Rich then, yeah.
So, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
We're all tied up.
We are all tied up. Let me give the purples 2. Very good. Okay, question 3 goes directly to the purples. This is an interesting one. Okay, in total, and this was mentioned, funnily enough, the author was mentioned by Richard. In total, how many books were directly written and created by Roald Dahl?
20 seconds on the clock.
Who is it? Oh, it's
No.
This is the purple team.
This is for the purples.
Purple team.
And
Really, Bob,
if you're
no.
tuning in, please feel free to jump in and have a guess in the chat.
50? Should we say 50?
Let's go. Yeah. Oliver? 50?
Go for 50.
All right, Natalie, 50.
50.
Okay. Evo.
Okay, it's locked in at 50. It could be a little bit closer. Red, it's over to you.
Rich, here we go, 20 seconds.
Guys, well, I mean, if they've said 50, I think it's more than that, so I'm tempted just to say 51. I don't know if there's anything above that, you know. I'm playing tactics. It's all about the winning here. You know,
Rich came to win, I can tell.
I was saying either go 49 or 51, so it's...
Okay,
I don't know. Are we including... This isn't just kids' books. This is everything he wrote, isn't it?
These are the books that the ones he directly wrote, because there's people who have like kind of taken things that weren't complete, but they don't count.
You're including his adult books and all the Tales of the Unexpected and all those ones as
Just,
well.
20 seconds over.
Yeah.
20 seconds is
Oh, Bhavna! Oh, step it in, Bhavna!
Correct.
Oh,
Rich.
No way. Can't let
Yeah,
you
Rich.
win.
up or down? Up 51.
All right, 51 for the red
Okay,
team.
51. Okay. So the correct answer, guys, is 39. So, Natalie, you have got yourself 2 more points. Well done. And that's not a bad guess. 50 is not a bad guess. So, you know, well done. To give, I would love to know, Richard, what would you have actually guessed without the 50?
But 50, I thought we were up towards sort of 78 books.
Right, okay. So I think that's with, I think that's including,
He wrote loads of short stories as well, so I don't know if you're counting them as...
I think if they were part of a
I'm going
pub...
to research that afterwards.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. Okay. The next question goes to the Reds. Here's an opportunity for you to go even. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series sold. They're saying they've sold at least 500 million copies, and there's various sources that say different things. But with that in mind, so this is from one particular source, in billions of dollars, so I'm going to make it easier for you. In billions of dollars, what is the total gross number? Okay? In sales of the Harry Potter books. So it's in the billions, so that gives you a bit of a clue. Richard.
20 seconds on the clock.
In the billions. So
Yeah.
I'm saying it's more than... Is it more than one, or are we in the 1 point something? What do we think, Barbara?
I'm thinking 2 billion.
2, Shelley?
Oh, can't hear
That's
you.
it.
Can't hear you, Shelley. Barbara, you think 2?
I don't know.
You think even more than 2, Shelley?
What do you think?
All right, we need an answer. Rich.
Shelley?
5.
5 billion.
Wow.
All right, Rich, where are you going?
Oh, I'm going to go in between the 2 and the 5. I'm going to go 3.5 in between Barbara and.
Okay, so 3.5.
3.5 billion.
Okay, 3.5 billion. It's going to go over. We could be closer. It's going to go over to the purples.
Natalie and the purples. All right, Natalie. 20 seconds.
Okay, is this the whole series or just the books? Is this
It's the Harry Potter books.
the books?
The books
Did you
only.
say 500 million copies sold?
Yeah, they're estimating 500 million copies.
Okay.
Five
I
seconds.
put my bet on 2.7 billion. 2.7 billion.
I was thinking just a bit below, so 2 and a bit.
What were you thinking?
These guys are so funny with their tactics.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Natalie, what do you got?
I'm gonna go 2.7 today.
2.7. Okay. So this is interesting, guys. So just, I'm going to point something out to you, and then you're going to kind of be able to figure it out. But you have locked it in. 3.5 was Richard's. 2.7 was Natalie's.
Yeah.
So you all know that J.K. Rowling was one of the first, I don't want to say the first because I might be wrong, but she's certainly one of the first female billionaires in the UK. You know that, right? You all know that? Now, bear in mind, if the gross number...
It's 10 times.
Do you understand what I mean? And that's the gross number. And then you've got to take off the publication
That's
fees.
10 billion.
Okay, so, I mean, most of you would have known she was a billionaire. And a multi-billionaire, not just a billionaire. So 3.5 million or lower wouldn't allow her to become a billionaire. Does that make sense, guys? Yes, she has royalties off the movie, but overall...
Billion, didn't we? 3.5 billion.
Yeah. So, guys, the answer, which is actually Bhavna's obviously kind of worked that out a bit, it is actually 7.7 billion off the books.
I mean, that's not... I don't think that's too far.
No, it's not too far,
10%.
but it gives you an idea of to become a billionaire, guys. You require, you understand what I mean? You require a lot.
Bigger revenue.
Yeah, the revenue end.
Anyway, Evo, yeah, that's brilliant. I love
we see
the
you're on the
explanation,
way.
but we were closer because we said 3.5.
Yeah. So I'm just saying,
That's
yeah.
all that matters. That's it. We win. Yes.
Well, actually, you don't.
Hi.
So it's 4-4. Okay.
That is final question.
Final question, guys.
So,
Come on.
Bhavna?
yeah, I was saying, I see you worked it all out how to become a billionaire.
Yeah, but I'm not one yet. I guess I was just putting it on the facts that you could already know about J.K. Rowling, which is not as easy with other people, right? That's all. Okay, there's the last question. You should all... This is going to be an interesting one. Dr. Seuss's Cat in the Hat. Okay. Again, this is just from a source that was televised. Apparently, it was on CNN. Estimated number of copies sold. I'm not going to give you any numbers here, so it's going to be one versus the other. Closest to the pin wins. Okay. Estimated number of copies sold. Cat in a Hat. Dr. Seuss. This is for the win. 20 seconds for both of you, I guess. Michael, on the clock.
Yeah, that's it. I'll set it up. Here we go.
I would say 8 billion.
Well, okay, we're doing ours, right, Rich? At the
What do
same
you got?
time.
I mean, it's
How long ago was that? When was that first published? When did that come out?
I can't tell you that, Richard. I can't tell you any of that. But I mean, if you guys know Dr. Seuss, you would know.
I don't know. I
5 seconds. 5
Any
seconds.
idea?
but I know it. I'm going to say a little less than 8 billion. So let's just say.
Okay.
What's your answer?
Shelly,
What's
you
your
okay with
take?
that?
Too funny.
What do you say?
Oh, I have no idea. No idea. I'm gonna give it to you. I have no idea.
Okay, we need answers.
Double
Let's
points,
see.
guys.
Rich is in the lead. So, Rich, what is your answer first? And then we'll jump to Natalie. So, Rich?
Barbara, you said slightly less than 8 million, didn't you? So we're going to go
7.5.
7.5. 7.5 million.
But Natalie hasn't given an answer.
Worldwide
Wait,
sales.
Evo, is the question the number of copies or the total turnover?
No, copies.
Number of copies sold. Number of copies.
I'd say copies is a billion.
So as Richard said,
Hold on, Richard. Hold on. Richard, what's your final answer?
I don't know now.
0.5.
No, wait a
million
minute.
copies.
No. Is she saying 1 billion now? I just want to hear what she's saying.
She is saying
I'm
billion.
not saying I'm going to go later.
Rich, we need your answer. 7.5 million is
1 billion.
okay. Rich, you're saying 1.1 billion.
No, 7.7.
7.5 million. Okay,
No.
I'm going with Rich. Rich is the captain.
yeah, what is Rich saying?
7.5. Rich is saying 7.5
Barbara, don't do
million.
this to me now. I'm going for 7.
No. She changed it to 1 billion, so I'm going just a little.
Bob's is not the captain here.
I'm going for 7.5 million.
Okay, that's Rich's final answer.
Okay, Natalie.
Your final answer.
Oh,
Natalie, my point is.
There's no more deliberation, Natalie. We need an answer.
Yeah.
okay. Let's go just above. Let's just go above. Although I actually think it's lower, but everyone's talking about million. I mean, bill. So I'm actually going 9.
9 million.
Only to go higher, but
Okay.
my heart is saying lower.
Okay. We appreciate your heart, Natalie. Appreciate your heart.
Okay, guys, we're gonna wrap this up, guys. So 7.5 was it? Million and 9.
And 9 million.
Okay, guys. Again, I've got to say, you should have gone with your heart, Natalie. It's from what I can see here, it's around 2 million. Bhavna was considerably closer than a lot of the others.
Bhavna said billion.
No, she said million.
Initially.
She said one. She actually, when you were listening, she said 1 million. She was working it out in her head on sales, which I completely get. So, Richard, congratulations. You pulled it back and you've ended up with 8. So it's 8-4, guys. Richard, well done. Well, you know what? I'm going to go over to Natalie first. Natalie, how are you feeling, Natalie?
Disappointed. We should have had that in the bag. I'll go over it.
Brilliant.
I'm kicking myself for increasing the number later.
And Richard.
But you know the logic was that if Rowling sold 500 million copies, Seuss has survived much longer, so should have sold more.
Okay.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's why. How is it only 2 million versus 500 million of Rowling? I contest this information. What's the source of this data, please?
Guys, you can go onto Google yourselves, but Harry Potter, and you're talking about the Harry Potter series, that's the difference. You're talking about one book, which is Dr. Seuss's, against a Harry Potter series, which was a global phenomenon, which, as you know, anyway, guys can check out yourselves. Feel free to DM me on Twitter if you're not happy. Richard, how do you feel? I'm sure you're not going to contest.
I'm not contesting this week. All I can say is, Natalie and Bhavna, I know exactly how you feel when it doesn't work out. I hope you can get over it. And it's taken me a while, but this is helping. And I think this is a good first step on the way to the end of the month spectacular.
Oh, end of the month. Okay, Richard, I'm going to put it up. I'm going to try and put it up on the screen now. Give me 1 second. So, okay. So, end of the month. Richard, do you want to talk us through it very quickly? It's just based on that flyer. Here we go. It's on the screen.
So at the end of the month, to try and support the Movember movement, which is the men's health awareness, and raise some money for charity, we are going to have a special edition of the quiz with the Mo Bros team against Toria, I believe, returning in the purple team. And we're going to try and right the wrongs of last week's quiz, where the red team were very harshly dealt with. And hopefully have a lot of fun, raise some money for charity, and an interesting quiz. And you might even see some adaptations to the bass fuzz. Evo looks like he's doing a good job doing a bass layer there that we can artistically we haven't had a chat about what it's going to look like. But
No.
Michael as well looks like he's got a good
Absolutely.
for a good Movember touch at the end of the year. Oliver, you need to get growing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, guys. We wanna support on this show. This is all about global conversations. We want to support issues that affect everyone globally. Movember was created to support men's health issues. So we're going to take part by having a season special with Richard and Toria and existing members and past members of the faculty to join us. It will be on the 29th of November. More details to come, guys. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So please make sure you tune in. I would like to now just bring the show to a close. I want to quickly thank everyone in our staff room faculty, Barbara, Shelly, Oliver and Bhavna. Thank you for coming along and joining us and giving up your personal time. Natalie and Richard, thank you very much for being our guests on the show. And Michael, of course, the co-host of the staff room, for joining us. Always a pleasure, guys, having people around the world giving their insights. And as we've just said before, about the Movember season special. And next week, episode 12 is all about social justice. It is Sunday, the 22nd of November. Same time, same place. 11 a.m. New York City, 4 p.m. London, 8 p.m. Dubai. Okay? Please come and join us if you can. That is going to be a very hot topic. Obviously, something that's been discussed multiple times in multiple places across this year with various movements. So please make sure you tune in for that one. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate the time you've given and for your comments. We hope you can join us next week. Do have yourself a fantastic week. Stay safe and please take care of each other. I'll see you soon.